Hello everyone, hope you're having the most wonderful day today. Welcome to the Film Insight channel. For today's video, we're going to discuss even more of the worst hotels featured on Hotel Hell and reveal how they're doing now. So, sit back, relax, and without further ado, let's get right into the content, guys. Landoll's Mohican Castle. For the show's final episode, Gordon Ramsay heads over to Landoll's Mohican Castle to save it from closure. Owned by Jim and Martha Landoll, they sold their booming printing business to build this $6 million castle on 1,000 acres of land. Even though Martha was hoping to retire after they left their careers behind, Jim thought it would be a good idea to build a castle. While it did pretty decent at first, something went awry and they suffered from a fire in the restaurant which caused thousands in damages. What's worse, their insurance wasn't able to cover it and the stress of the situation led to the couple getting a divorce. Due to this, Jim decided to retire and he selfishly left all the work to Martha, who has to work from sunup to sundown. Desperately needing some help, the owners call out to Ramsay and his team for some professional guidance. Upon his eventual arrival, he's greeted by the desk clerk Crystal and notices that the entrance is horribly dusty and that their TV is extremely old. Entering the events hall, which is run by Melody, who has no formal training in event planning, Ramsay wonders how it operates and it seems like Crystal doesn't even know herself. Looking around the grounds, Ramsay notices an appalling T-Rex looking statue and finds tons of cigarette butts and flies when he climbs up one of the towers. Wanting to understand more about the business and its issues, Ramsay suggests that they host a wedding that will house over 100 guests in a few days. Meeting with the soon-to-be married couple, they're immediately unimpressed with the venue's linen and chairs. The hotel's manager/chef, Jimmy, comes into the conversation and openly admits that he doesn't know how to cook certain items on the menu, but that he'll Google how to do it. Unsurprisingly, the food is absolutely disgusting, which discourages the couple, but Ramsay assures them that things will improve. Observing one of the dinner services, the famous chef notices that the kitchen staff cooks meat and fish on the same plate, which is terribly unsanitary. On top of this, the kitchen staff is extremely dysfunctional, sending food to the wrong tables and making the meals inconsistent in quality. Having a one-on-one with Jimmy later on, he tells him that he needs to step things up and take control of the place since he's lazy and leaves all the work to Martha. After making tons of renovations, especially to the venue and updating the menu, Landoll's was given a second chance. During the wedding celebration, the bride and groom seemed to love the new decor and thoroughly enjoyed their meals, branding their experience as perfect. Post Hotel Hell, the bookings steadily increased and the castle was finally making enough money to be considered profitable. The kitchen was completely reorganized and more importantly, a new head chef was hired so Jimmy could focus on managing. Thankfully, Jimmy seems to be taking things more seriously, which allowed for Martha to relax since she truly deserves it. He's also lost over 65 pounds since the taping of this episode and got some formal training to improve his management skills. Reviews on Yelp and TripAdvisor are pretty good, but many complain about the service quality and cleanliness standards. Regardless, the business is still open to this day and even expanded in 2018 to include a new block of rooms. We're glad that everything worked out, at least for Martha's sake. That poor woman needed a break. Vienna Inn. In a season 2 episode, Gordon Ramsay pays a visit to Vienna Inn in Southbridge, Massachusetts to bring it back on its feet. Owned by a couple named Jonathan and Lisa Crack, they purchased the inn back in 2000 and it hasn't had the greatest reputation since. Some speculate that they host adult parties in the hotel's basement, which has led to many seeing the establishment as a trashy place. What's more, the owners are known to be very unprofessional in nature, screaming at one another to the point of being heard by patrons and drinking/smoking with customers, which creates a lousy atmosphere. With this in mind, the inn hasn't been doing very well, so the couple called out to Ramsay to get his advice. When he eventually arrives, the Hotel Hell host is disgusted to see that there's a dead cat and cabbage at the entrance. He's also revealed that the staff has to pay over $300 for their uniforms, which is so excessive. Meeting with Lisa, she admits that the inn was her husband's idea and that she originally didn't want to open one since they already had 2 children to take care of. Looking around, Ramsay notices a dead man's violin on the table and sees tons of other weird decorations cluttered around the hotel. Taken to his room, the famous chef is given a complimentary appetizer that was nothing but soggy bread and underseasoned boar meat. Getting a closer look at his room, Ramsay points out that it looks dated and is perplexed to find a closet that's locked. Since Lisa's room is next to Ramsay's and she has no more space for clothes, she's using his closet for extra storage. Heading down to the restaurant to taste test the food, it's rancid overall, but Ramsay brands their edible floral decoration on his mushroom crepes as delicious. Asking his waiter why she thinks the hotel is failing, she responds that there's a clear lack of organization and consistency from the management. Additionally, she expresses that the worst thing she experienced was being smacked on the back of the head by Lisa in front of customers. Later on, the famous chef decides to snoop around the basement to see if the rumors were really true, but he only finds a wine cellar filled with expensive wine and a mineral spa. Deciding to observe the evening service, he's appalled to see the kitchen staff sending out old and spoiled food. Inspecting the kitchen, Ramsay finds meat in the fridge that shouldn't be stored together and notices that the staff is cross-contaminating. Calling a staff meeting after this horrible display, the famous chef finds out that there isn't a payroll system and that the employees don't get their entire paychecks. Hoping to wake the negligent owners up, Ramsay gets them to meet with some customers who voice their complaints. Something that the food quality is too poor for the price, the decor is ugly and cluttered, and the uniforms are unnecessarily revealing. It was after this intervention that the Hotel El host decided to make some renovations to the rooms and dining room, as well as bring in a sommelier to help them sell wine. In the end, this was a humongous mistake since Lisa was ungrateful and even angry about the changes made, and the relaunch ended in disaster. Following the taping of this episode, the owners decided to go right back to what they were doing, which is so incredibly aggravating. Not only did they take the clutter out of storage and put it right back, but they reverted to their old menu, which is why their reputation stayed the same. Closing in 2017 after suffering from a fire that caused $75,000 in damages, the building was sold for $30,000 in 2018. What a colossal failure this was. Murphy's Hotel. Gordon Ramsay decided to rescue Murphy's Hotel in Murphy's, California from closure in another Season 2 episode. Owned by three friends named Brian Goss, Kevin Clerico, and Joel La Chirignola, they've been running this historic hotel for over a year. While Goss works in the dining room, Clerico manages the bar, and La Chirignola works as the restaurant's chef. However, Goss and Clerico don't seem to take their job very seriously since they like to use the dining room as a party spot, which keeps many of the customers awake. As a result of the mounting complaints, they don't get as many customers anymore and are struggling to get by, so they call out to Ramsay for his aid. Upon his eventual arrival, he's impressed with the historic status of the hotel, but isn't much of a fan of the dated decor. Taken to the presidential room where President Grant slept, Ramsay is met with a group of tourists who enter his room while he's still there. Weirded out by this, Ramsay decides to get his mind off of things and heads into the dining room, which is very pink and oddly decorated. Meeting with Brian, who comically made himself the employee of the month, Ramsay asks him about the restaurant's special, which he forgot, so he has to return to the kitchen to ask the chef. Eating some escargot and a red wine garlic sauce and lamb shank, the famous chef thinks it's awful, and the owners have to agree after trying it for themselves. La Chirignola joins later on and admits that none of them have ever tried their own food or went through any formal cooking training, which is already pretty clear. Investigating the kitchen after his awful meal, Ramsay heads into the freezer and notices that there's raw pork and cooked chicken stored together as well as moldy produce. Understandably upset, the Hotel El host tells the owners that their freezer shows them how little they care about the hotel. Thankfully, they at least decide to try and clean it, but unfortunately, they get distracted and end up partying at the bar. Hearing tons of noise, Ramsay's awoken at 1 in the morning by the rowdiness and is unable to get away from it despite changing rooms. Holding a staff meeting the next day, they point out that they don't take the owners seriously since they're incredibly unprofessional and treat the place like it's a frat house. Disagreeing with the sentiments, Goss threatens to fire some of the staff members, which is supposedly something the owners have done more than once. Fed up with how they were handling things, Ramsay tells the owners to grow up and urges one of them to take charge so that there's a clear head. Goss volunteers to become the leader and the other two agree without any argument, which was the first step towards improvement. Working overnight with his team, Ramsay attempted to modernize the hotel, updating the lobby and rooms as well as giving the dining room a makeover. Post-Hotel Hell, the reviews on Yelp were pretty mixed, with some claiming that Ramsay's changes were awful and others praising them beyond belief. The most shocking revelation about this hotel is that it's still open to this day and has a solid 3.5 stars on TripAdvisor. While it's very unexpected, we're happy that the owners started to take things more seriously. Well, that'll be all for today's video here on the channel. I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to drop a massive like down below and comment your thoughts. Subscribe for more content like this and turn on those sweet bell notifications for instant access to our content. Have a good one, guys.